We are extremely proud to have the Wild Sheep Foundation as our title sponsor. They've been with us for a long time, and registration is now live for the 2025 Sheep Show, January 16th to 18th in Reno, Nevada. Register online today. Friday and Saturday night banquets will be sellouts. If you plan on attending these banquets, I strongly encourage you to register now. Go to wildsheepfoundation.org and don't forget to sign up or renew your less than one club membership. You know all about that event. You can win once-in-a-lifetime hunt. You can drink as much beer as you can handle, and you're going to have an amazing time. Again, go to wildsheepfoundation.org. I'll be sharing more details in the weeks to come, and we can't wait to return to the Wild Sheep Foundation's legendary Sheep Show in Reno, Nevada. This episode is also brought to you by Zoleo. If you're in the market for a new satellite communicator, we highly recommend Zoleo. You can get yourself one by going to Zoleo.com, that's Zoleo.com, or find a certified retailer near you. And last but not least, we're very excited to welcome back North Arm Knives. These guys have been with us for many, many years. Their knives have been with us on all of our hunts in the backcountry, on the lake, and in the kitchen. Get yourself a kick-ass blade today at northarmknives.com. Guys, we're going to skip the intro again this week, and we're going to get right into hunting stories. So last week, I asked you guys to submit hunting stories, just type them out and email them to us, and that we would read them on the show, and then you would be entered, or you'd at least have your name in the hat to win a knife from North Arm Knives. So North Arm is going to listen to all of these as the weeks go on here. And every 2 months, they're going to pick a winner and send them a blade of their choice. So this is pretty fun. And I was worried because I asked you guys to do this when we sort of made our return. Nobody really responded. So there's probably a few reasons for that. But I think it was because there was no real way to entice you guys to do it. So with our partnership with North Arm Knives, that's something we decided would be fun to do, is to do some giveaways. And this is what we decided to do. So I put up a call on Instagram earlier today, and they started flooding in. And pretty excited about it. We've got some really, really good stories. So I'm curious what you guys are going to think about this. So we've got an AI voice that's going to read these. And they're actually... The narrator is actually really good, and I think it adds to the stories rather than just having me read them. So this first one comes from Mark, and I'm gonna let it play, and then I've got some things to add to it because this one strikes a few memories for me. So here you go.
My father and I returned from a DIY horsepacking trip with Tetsa River Outfitters. It was a bucket list adventure for both of us, and what a trip it was. Our dates with Beth and Doug ran from September 29th to October 8th, leaning into the peak rut. We primarily targeted moose, but we also had elk tags. I decided to forego my island elk status for 3 years by pulling a cow elk LEH for the area. We left the island on the 26th, staying over at my brother's place in Vancouver to break up the drive. In 2 days, we made it to Prince George and then Fort Nelson, where we stayed for a couple of days while I worked remotely. After happily unplugging from the internet and cell phone reception, we drove to Tetsa, arriving on the afternoon of the 28th. We got settled at their cabin and enjoyed a lovely meal with Doug and Beth's family. On the morning of the 29th, Doug had all our gear weighed and packed into the horse panniers. Doug, Beth, my father, and I departed mid-morning with 4 horses and 2 mules in tow, heading to the Moose Camp cabins where we'd stay for the next 9 days. The first 3 days were tough with high winds, snow, and low-lying fog. which kept the animals hunkered down in the timber. We didn't see a single one, except for a couple of small bulls wandering through camp for a lick at the horse salt. We hiked the ridges, putting in over 10 kilometers a day, but saw nothing. Still, the scenery was stunning. Over the years, animals have gotten used to the salt lick in camp, which has been there for roughly 40 years. During our stay, 5 different bull moose came through to use it. Our sleeping cabin was simple but comfortable, with bunk beds, a wood stove, and a spot to hang and dry our gear. Beth and Doug had their own cabin, which doubled as the kitchen where Beth cooked up wonderful meals every evening. On day 4, the weather finally broke, and we immediately began spotting animals. In the first 15 minutes of glassing, I saw 4 bull moose down in the timber, near a natural spring salt lick. 2 of the bulls looked legal, so we made a quiet play and hiked down. I set up and gave a cow call, and within 15 minutes, a bull responded. He came in to about 20 yards, but unfortunately, he wasn't legal, an 8-7 with 2 brow tines on both palms. It was still a thrilling experience. Day 5 was another long day of hiking, but this time we saw more wildlife, mostly cows and calves, along with 2 wolves and a large grizzly sow with 2 cubs. We even spotted a bull moose above the bears, who quickly bolted into the timber once the wind changed. I initially thought it was my calling that spooked him, but the grizzlies were definitely the culprit. We spent the afternoon watching cows, and though we spotted a large bull briefly in the morning, I couldn't get a good look at him. We moved to a ridge in hopes of getting closer, but the day ended uneventfully. That evening, as we returned to our spotting location, I found the same cow and calf from earlier, along with the large bull I couldn't identify. This time I had time to assess him properly and realized he was a shooter. Clearly a 3-3 on the tri-palm, with a distinctive drop tine on his left antler. It was late, around 4:30 p.m., and getting to them would have required 3 hours of tough walking in unfamiliar terrain. We decided to let them be and planned to return at first light, weather permitting. Day 6 began with dreams of clear skies, but Mother Nature had other plans. Fresh snow and thick fog limited our visibility. We hiked back to the area where we had seen the bull and cow, moving slowly and quietly through the snow and willows. After a few hours of careful trekking, we spotted the cow, calf, and 2 young bulls through the timber. They noticed us and ran off, so we waited before moving further up the slope, where we had better visibility of the surrounding area. After a couple of hours of glassing, making tea, and trying to stay warm, I started to wonder how much longer we should wait. My father suggested another hour and a half, so I decided to stretch my legs with a short walk in the timber. As I returned, my father quietly waved me over. Mr. Big had shown up, accompanied by 2 smaller bulls. I quickly and quietly set up my rifle and ranged the shot at 230 yards. The bull moved into view, quartering away from us, broadside. The perfect shot. This was the first moose I had ever hunted, and I was nervous. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and fired. My father confirmed it was a good hit. The bull staggered and collapsed within seconds, followed by the sound of his final breath. Several other moose, which we hadn't noticed, bolted from the surrounding timber. After waiting to ensure the bull was down, we hiked over to the kill site. It was a relief to find him exactly where he had fallen. A quick, clean kill. We took some photos and cut my tag before sending a celebratory message to Doug and Beth. It was too late to haul the moose back that evening, so we field-dressed the animal and secured the area as best as we could to deter scavengers. Then we hiked the 3 hours back to camp, tired but happy. Day 7, we saddled the horses and returned to the site, following fresh grizzly tracks along the way. Thankfully, the bears hadn't done much damage to the carcass. After a few nervous moments, we set to work deboning and packing the meat onto the horses. The process took several hours, with a few interruptions from grizzly huffing in the distance. But by late afternoon, we had 430 pounds of moose meat ready to go. We made it back to camp just as another legal bull was spotted at the salt lick. 1 moose was more than enough for us, though. Day 8 was our final day. We packed up the horses and rode the 3 hours back to the highway. Once back, we loaded the meat into a freezer and packed our gear for the long drive to Fort St. John, where Doug and Beth had arranged a butcher for us. Before heading out, we made sure to grab some warm cinnamon buns for the road, a gooey, sugary treat after an incredible week. It was a bucket list experience to share with my father. Being successful in the hunt was a bonus. Area 7 is vast and beautiful, and Doug and Beth worked tirelessly to make the experience memorable. I'd highly recommend this trip to anyone seeking a DIY-style adventure.
So nice work, Mark. You set the bar pretty high with this one. This is already one of my favorites. Yeah, great writing and fantastic story. So I said this one, brought back some memories for me. So when we did our first backpack trip off of the Alaska highway, our goal was actually to get all the way to Tetsa River Outfitters, and we had rented one of their cabins. So I think we went pretty much nonstop all the way there from Kelowna, which is ridiculous. I can't believe we did that. So needless to say, we were exhausted by the time we got there. And I think they were actually just like wrapping up their cabin rentals at that time. So we were like the last people to stay there. And if you've driven that stretch of road, there's signs that say like best cinnamon buns in the galaxy or in the universe or something to that effect. And we were definitely looking forward to those, but we thought, oh man, they're shutting down like for the season. So I don't think that's something that's going to be in the cards. So anyways, we just didn't really think much about it. But much to our surprise, in the morning, we hear a little knock on the door, and it's her. And she had made fresh cinnamon buns just for us. It was pretty epic. And that was like the last, real food we ate before we hit the road again and traveled further up the Alaska highway and started our first ever sheep hunt, which you guys know all about. So anyways, that was a fantastic story, Mark. And again, you definitely set the bar with that one. This next one is about a mule deer hunt. And he asked to stay anonymous, which is totally fine. You guys are more than welcome to keep your names hidden from this stuff. We obviously know who you are, and we know how to track you down if you win. So let's get right into the next one here.
My hunting partners and I were in our 4th season of hunting, and I had yet to even see a deer in the bush, just taking a handful of grouse each season. Well, we had chosen a new area to hunt this particular year, and I decided to get into the spot 2 days before the rest of my buddies would be showing up to scout the area. It was Region 3 in October for any buck. I arrived around 3:30 p.m. and decided to sit on a cut block until it was too dark to see. It was just about dark when I lost patience and decided to stand up and walk back to my little SUV. Well, standing right beside my SUV were 2 does staring at me. I'm pumped and disappointed at the same time. The first deer I've seen while hunting, but I can't take them. After making sure they wouldn't suddenly grow antlers, I slowly started walking back towards them in my vehicle. I take 5 steps and hear a cracking branch behind and below me. There, standing 30 yards away, was a 3-point muley. He was about 400 yards in all directions from the edge of the timber. He was standing in a spot I had been staring at for the last hour. He had been bedded in a small depression in the ground, and I had been glancing over top of him the whole time. He was perfectly broadside, and after lining up my crosshairs behind his shoulder, I let one rip. He dropped on the spot. This was before YouTube and online hunting content had really taken off. My knowledge of gutting, skinning, and meat care came from a couple of low-resolution videos I found on the internet and posts on the Hunting BC forum, so I got my deer cleaned out but had a really hard time trying to squeeze him whole through the hatch of the small SUV. I wish I had known about the gutless method back then, because it took 30 minutes and a soreback to get it in and the hatch shut. I brought the deer back to camp, managed to hang it on a pole using a pulley and rope tied to my front bumper, and got it skinned out. I was then starting to panic from lack of experience. It was about 6 degrees Celsius, with a low at night of 3. For some reason, I had it in my head that it had to be below 0 to hang a deer overnight. At the time, I didn't know that those were perfectly acceptable temps. So I wrestled the deer back into my vehicle, wrapped in a tarp. By now, rigor had started to set in, and I couldn't fold him up to get the rear hatch closed, so it was left partially open and tied tight with rope. I stopped at the nearest gas station and bought what felt like all the ice they had. I stuffed the body cavity and around the body with ice bags and wrapped it back up. I then proceeded to drive the Coca-Cola home with my AC on full blast and windows open with the temps well below 0, wearing every layer of clothing I had on the way. The whole time, stupidly worrying about the meat cooling down. I left the deer in my garage, all wrapped up with ice, and took it to the butcher first thing in the morning. My hunting buddies were jacked up after hearing about my success. We went back to the same area a day later as planned, and every member of our group each tagged out on their first mule deer. It was the one and only time we've had a 100% success rate as a group. The picture of us all holding our cut tags is one of my favorites to this day.
Nice work. Hilarious imagery picturing you stuffing a deer into the back of what I'm assuming was like a tracker or something like that. So good work on that one. And I think some of you listening can probably get a few takeaways from that. The temperature thing is something that everybody obviously worries about, but obviously well in the safe zone with that one, but better safe than sorry. So yeah, good work on that story. Let's get into one more. It's going to be a shorter episode again today. And this one comes from Cody, and it's about his first elk hunt. Let's get into it.
2024 was my first year hunting elk and first year hunting with a bow. On the first morning, I got on a 5-point and got within 104 yards. He was raking away at me, but I was not able to get much closer. I spent the next 4 days trying to figure out how to actually hunt elk, but have close calls every day. On day 7, I finally get one riled up enough to come out into the open and fling an arrow his way. He's hit, but for some reason, limping with his back right leg, but there's no way we missed by 3 feet. We get another shot on him and miss. We go after him to try and get another shot as he stopped at a fence. He jumps over, and we never see him again. We spent the next 4 hours searching for him. We return to camp to have lunch and head back out to search for a few more hours and again find and hear nothing. We return the next morning and hear a bull bugling, so we head towards the sound, hoping it's the one from yesterday, and end up walking right into our bull on the ground from yesterday. Still warm. We quartered everything up and save over 95% of the meat. Still not sure why the right leg wasn't working great, as it hit exactly where it should have, just behind the front shoulder. It was the hardest we have ever hunted, with 15-hour hunt days, and we were lucky enough to get an elk. Could have really used a good quality sharp knife.
Love it. This was a ton of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this format. This wasn't the original plan, actually, but because we couldn't get together this week and record an episode with Garrett and Kelly and myself, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to throw 3 stories together and put them out as a way to kick off this contest and encourage more of you guys to write in. But I would like to hear your feedback. If you enjoyed this and you want to hear more episodes just like this, let me know. info@therookihunter.com. Share your feedback. And if you'd like to submit a story, please do. Again, you can send those to info@therookihunter.com, and we will gladly include them. And each time we put up a story, we're going to send that over to North Arm Knives, and they're going to pick a winner at some point here. We'll be doing this every 2 months, so six blades are going to go out every year here. So thanks to the 3 of you for sending in these fantastic stories. I really appreciate the time and the effort that went into putting these together. And I hope you guys are having a wicked time out there and the season is treating you well so far. The next time you hear from us, we're going to be recording next to a campfire. So you have that to look forward to. But we're away all next week, so you're not going to hear from us for a bit here. But until then, good luck out there, guys. There you go. I think that was 165. Sound right? Somewhere around there. Anyways, big thanks to North Arm Knives for pulling this together for us and being part of the giveaway. Obviously, the key part of it. Excited to see what happens, what they choose, and what knife the winner chooses. But we're going to keep this going and give away a knife every 2 months. So info@therookihunter.com. Send them in. We'll read them. As always, Zoleo. Don't forget to check them out. That's ZOLEO.com if you need a satellite communicator for your outdoor adventures. And of course, the Wild Sheep Foundation. If you're thinking about going to Sheep Show, you better get on it now. Cheers, guys.